you may not have pre-baited exactly the way that was supposed to be pre-baited. Per the label, you are required to pre-bait, but sometimes we'll deal with people and we'll be like, hey, so how long did you pre-bait for? And they'll be like, well, I didn't pre-bait. I actually just went in live. And it's like, well, first of all, you're violating federal law, so that's a little bit of a problem. Because when you do that, what it does is it creates bait shinies. You've actually communicated to them unintentionally, once they had their initial reaction, that, hey, like, there's something wrong with this food. Well, think about it. If you ate food that wasn't good for you, you went to a restaurant, you ordered something, you got a little sick, how often are you guys going back to that restaurant? Hey guys, welcome back for another episode. Here's what's really cool about this episode. It's one that you guys have been asking for as you guys talk to our support team and that kind of thing, and you're like, hey, the bait isn't working. What's wrong? What's going on? And so we're going to take some time to kind of answer that. Here's what's amazing about working with Avitrol baits for birds and using that biotechnology to actually change the way that birds communicate. It's that we've been doing this as a company officially since 71, and then before that, ConocoPhillips developed the original formulations. So it's like we've been around since like the 60s or so doing this, and we've never had a bad batch at all whatsoever. So here's what's really, really cool about that. It means that if the bait is not working and you're not getting the results that you want, and you're not changing the bird's communication and all that kind of stuff, it means that there's a flaw with the system that's being executed. It's not a problem with the bait itself. And so what I want to do is give you 3 easy ways to take a look at it and say, hey, the bait's not working. It's either one of these 3 things. And I'm telling you, without fail, we can pinpoint it down to like the nth degree, get really granular with it, and it'll always come back to one of these 3 things, okay? So let's talk about the very first one, and it's that you may not have pre-baited exactly the way that was supposed to be pre-baited. So here's what happens when you sort of skip the pre-baiting process, because we'll deal with people now. Per the label, you are required to pre-bait, but sometimes we'll deal with people and we'll be like, hey, so how long did you pre-bait for? And they'll be like, well, I didn't pre-bait. I actually just went in live. And it's like, well, first of all, you're violating federal law, so that's a little bit of a problem. Let's actually fix that. Let's do something about that. I don't want you to get fines and like all that stuff. But the second thing is the reason why that's on there is because we've got to establish a trusted food source. So here's what this might look like when you're actually skipping it. The birds are going to eat. They might feel a little bit weird. And what they'll do is they'll associate the food that they're eating with danger instead of the sight. What you want is you want those alphas to communicate to the rest of the flock that, hey, there's a problem with this location that we're out here. We don't want them communicating, hey, there's a problem with the food that we're eating. We should stop eating the bait. Because when you do that, what it does is it creates bait shyness. And so guys will be like, hey, like I came in and I deployed my active bait, but now the birds aren't eating anymore. What's going on? Well, they're shy. You've actually communicated to them unintentionally, once they had their initial reaction, that, hey, like there's something wrong with this food. Well, think about it. If you ate food that wasn't good for you, you went to a restaurant, you ordered something, you got a little sick, how often are you guys going back to that restaurant? For sure, you're not giving it like a 3rd chance. You might give it a 2nd chance, maybe, right? But you're not going back there. Like that's the end of it. And so that's exactly what happens with birds, right? Is it's bait shyness. Here's the thing to understand. Birds are neophobic. Pigeons, and I'm really gonna relate this to pigeons as I walk through, as I talk about digestive system and some other stuff with pigeons. But you guys can expand this to a lot of other birds here as well too. Neophobic is just a fancy way of saying they're afraid of new things. So here's what's interesting. Pigeons have such an amazing memory. They remember human faces. They remember feeding spots. And so what they'll do with how this relates to bait shyness is they'll avoid that tray. Like they'll look at it and they'll go like, there's something wrong with that food. There's something wrong with that tray. That thing was new. I ate of it. I had a bad experience, and I had a bad experience, right? Like the movie quote. That's what they're doing, and they're going, hey, I'm out of here. I'm not going to do this anymore. So here's how you fix that. If you have to deal with bait shyness, don't worry, don't freak out if you're dealing with this situation right now. If the birds are bait shy, you can fix that pretty easily. One of the best things that we recommend doing is adding a detractant to your untreated grain. Some of the best attractants are scrambled eggs, especially this time of year. The birds are looking for protein and calcium. They're looking for egg production. So it's a great time to add your attractant. Peanut butter also acts as a phenomenal attractant as well too. That smell is familiar and that attractant, and that can help to override fear that the birds actually have that's actually causing them to avoid that bait. The next thing is to move the trays to a slightly different spot. They could be 5 feet away, 10 feet away from where they are right now. Birds will imprint on a particular space. So a new spot kind of gives you a fresh chance. Remember, you've got these pigeons with a little bit of photographic memory, so they're looking at it and they're saying, I ate this thing out of this tray, out of this spot, and it caused this thing. I don't want to have anything to do with it. So now it's like, I move my tray so it's not in the same spot. Now I've got a little bit new food in there, but that food is familiar to them. Eggs occur in nature, like that kind of thing, right? So it's familiar to them. And now they're going, oh, hey, let's give this another shot, right? The third step is to go to untreated grain, right? So if you came right in with live and you've got bait shyness, no big deal. Move those trays around, add your attractant in there, but make sure you add an attractant to untreated grain so that now the birds can actually, now you get them to establish a trusted food source. Now, another tip that I'm going to give you guys as well is this is something our support team deals with pretty regularly. We make 2 different tray sizes. We make an 18 by 12 inch tray and a 2 foot by 2 foot tray. The big trays are designed for big birds. The small trays are designed for smaller birds. Those trays are actually made out of an aged pine wood. It takes up and absorbs the scent of the surrounding area better than about any other material that we've found. On top of it, they're designed with two type of or dual drain type of tech is the way that it's set up basically, where it's like you've got your graded drain and your slatted drain, so the bait doesn't just sit in water when it rains, right? And so that keeps your that couple inch lip there that's on the side of our trays that we designed. Allows the birds to actually fly down in there and not feel trapped on the inside of the tray. And then when it gets wet, when there's water on it, it allows for that water to drain out because birds don't actually like to eat grain that's like moldy and stuff like that, right? So it allows it to fully dry out and it really makes it attractive. So highly recommend actually utilizing our bait trays. At minimum, at absolute worst case, you want to use wood trays. Don't be using pie tins or plastic containers and stuff like that, right? You're just going to work in stack factors against you, okay? Here's another thing to keep in mind when you're dealing with pigeons with regard to what we're talking about right now, moving the trays around, doing all that kind of stuff, is they have a 340-degree field of view, and they can see in the UV spectrum. So they can spot anything that's off or anything new. It's like they have like a detective system just like built into their brains, right? And so because of that, as you change things in here, they're going to notice those changes, and then they're going to be suspicious of the change. So if you hit them with active right after you've changed something major or something like that, they're going to go, hey, that's another part of the thing that was suspicious. Things don't add up. We need to stop eating here. Here's an interesting little fact about this. Their vision is so precise that they can see in 70 frames per second of visual processing. So if it's slightly unfamiliar, they'll see it before you even have the chance to blink. Like that's how quickly they process that information. That is actually faster than a lot of cameras and that kind of thing, right? So they are phenomenal processors of information. You want to make sure that you're creating something that's consistent for them. And so you want to make sure that you pre-bait beforehand, get them acclimated to a food source. Oh, I should mention, you want to pre-bait until you get about 50% feed acceptance. That's what you're looking for. So if you're asking the question, how long should I pre-bait now? You're right. Like I actually came out here and I did this. deployed the active bait, it caused some problems. How long should I pre-bait? The answer is you want half the feed that you put out to be gone between feedings before you come in live. That's really what you're looking for. From a proposal standpoint, we actually recommend proposing a 4-week pre-baiting time frame. Now, that doesn't mean it's going to take that long. I've seen these whole jobs completed in as little as 5 days from pre-baiting. So let's say you put your pre-bait down, they hit it really fast, they clean those trays out. You're like, great. You rotate in here a couple days later, you put your live bait down, you get those alphas to communicate, all the birds leave and they're gone in like a week. That can totally happen, right? But we recommend proposing a 4-week pre-baiting time frame. You're dealing with wildlife. They have a brain of their own, and you don't know exactly how long it's going to take to get your 50% feed acceptance. But we recommend planning for that 4 weeks and then looking for that 50% of the feed that you're putting in the tray is gone between feedings before you actually come in live. That way you've got good acceptance. Okay, so that's reason number one that you might be experiencing maybe the bait not working. Okay, so the second reason why you might be running into the feeling like the bait isn't working is because you are not rotating out your pre-bait and your live bait. So let's say that you go live, right? You've done your pre-baiting, 50% of that bait is being fed on. That looks great. And now you go ahead and you go live. Well, let's say after you go live, you just leave that live bait out there and you're just getting reaction after reaction. What can happen is the birds can still figure out after that first live baiting period that, hey, there's something wrong with this food that we're eating, right? Here's what you want to do, because again, you need those alphas to communicate that there's something wrong with the location that's being treated. You actually want to go and swap out your live bait with pre-bait. We recommend overnight rotations. What something like that might look like is, let's say you circle in as the birds are settling down to roost, which is usually going to be around sunset or so somewhere between, this time of year, somewhere between 6 and maybe 7:30 or so p.m. Those birds are settling down to sleep. They're not actually going to feed on that overnight, right? And so you put out that active bait then. The next morning, you might rotate in after you get a few good feedings. So let's call it 7 a.m., 8 a.m. Replace then that active bait with your pre-bait. And so now when the birds go later in the day and they hit that again, there's no reaction. When they go like the next day or a couple days later and they hit that again, there's no reaction. There's no communication. It's like this food source is still safe. Not sure what happened here. Maybe that was a fluke. Let's just keep going. Well, by the second or third or fourth time that you do these rotations, the birds are going like, I'm freaked out. Something is wrong here. This is crazy. I don't know what's going on. All I know is this is a dangerous spot. We keep getting attacked. Let's actually leave and let's not come back. That's really what they're looking for. This is called psychological pressure. This is the technical term for it. Is you're creating this pressure and they can't actually put the pieces together. We have to remember the reason why this works is that pigeons actually follow other birds' emotional cues. And so if every time they hit it, you're getting this reaction, right? Something seems off. But if you can make it where it doesn't seem off and it's every once in a while that they're actually seeing a reaction, and most of the time they're not, because think about it. You're pre-baiting until you get 50% feed acceptance. That can take a little bit. Let's say that takes a couple weeks or whatever, right? And then from there, you go in live, and that active bait is not out very long, right, before that gets replaced with pre-bait. So most of the time that they're feeding on this, they have no reaction at all whatsoever. There's no problems at all whatsoever. And then every once in a while, boom, there's a problem. It's like you are creating this psychological pressure, and you're creating pressure on those alphas to communicate, hey, guys, I'm sorry. I've been trying to figure this out for a minute. I don't know what's wrong. All I know is we need to leave and not come back because this is causing a ton of issues, right? So that's the second reason why you might be running into your bait not working. Now, the third reason why is you haven't adjusted as your job has gone along, okay? So here's what the problem looks like. Maybe the flock size drops. Like maybe you have done your pre-bait, you've done your live bait, and after your initial live baiting, after a couple live baitings, maybe the flock size was like 50 birds. Maybe now only you're seeing like 15 birds out there regularly. But at the beginning of the job, you calculated how much bait you actually need to use. And so maybe you calculated that, and this isn't exact math here, and I'm not doing it in my head, so just go with me here. But let's say that you calculated that you needed 30 pounds to last you 3 days, and you're out there every 3 days adding pre-bait or checking your trays, right? And so now that flock size has dropped from 50 birds down to 15 trays, but you haven't adjusted the amount of bait that you're actually putting out there in those trays, so you're still putting out your 30 pounds or whatever it is to last for your feedings. The problem that can happen is that not enough active ingredient reaches the actual bird's bloodstream because those 15 birds are eating enough bait designed for 50 birds now, right? And that causes a problem. Here's why that won't enter their bloodstream, and you might not be getting reaction. You might be watching them eat up that active bait, and you're like, man, they're cleaning these trays out. Like, I know they're eating this active bait. What the heck? Like, it's not working. Okay, here's why this happens. The birds don't chew. Like those pigeons, they're not chewing it. You're not watching them chew that with their beak. The grain actually goes into a crop, which is a small pouch that's there on their throat, right? And it slowly passes into the gizzard and into their intestines. Well, if the crop fills up really fast with untreated grain, too much grain here, right? The active ingredient then gets diluted, and then they fly off full, but completely unaffected by the active ingredient. It doesn't hit their bloodstream, okay? So here's how you fix that. Take a look at it. After your live baiting, look at how many birds are there, right? When you rotate in to do your pre-baiting like next, take a look at how many birds are out there. Count, get just like a general idea. Okay, looks like I've got about 20 birds out here. I was seeing 50 birds before. And then adjust down. It's like, okay, great. I need to adjust my pre-bait down. I need to adjust how much active bait is going down here, down as well too. Now, of course, you can do that by working directly with one of our support specialists. They'll help figure that out for you. Or you can also use our dilution ratio calculator. That's in the Avitrol Bird app. If you go to learn and then app, I think, is there on the website. You can actually click that. If you're not already set up on it, you just sign up for a free account. It's free to use, but it'll actually help calculate based on the amount of birds that you have out there exactly how much active bait, how much pre-bait you need, like all that kind of stuff, right? But you want to adjust that down as the flock size goes down to make sure that they're getting the right amount of bait. So those are really the three reasons that you might be looking at and going like, man, hey, the birds are the bait is not working at all whatsoever, that you might commonly run into. You fix those 3 things, I guarantee you're going to see success every single time getting those birds to feed, no matter what's going on, no matter the scenario, no matter how cold, how hot, all of that kind of stuff. None of those factors really matter. It's just establishing a trusted food source and getting them to feed consistently, and then getting those alphas to communicate, get them all out of there, and you're good to go. So you fix those and you're good to go. That's all we got for this episode. If you like it, make sure that you share it, make sure that you subscribe, and stay tuned because we're going to get some more right back at you.